Check, check. All right, I'll bring this Board of Finance meeting to order for March 9th. I'm Mike Anderson, Chair. I got Dan Smith, Vice Chair, Carl Johnston, alternate, Ed McGowan, alternate, Gary Nino is online, and Lou Gingerella. Absent are Sarah Nelson and Winona Burdine. So I'm going to seat Carl for Winona. I'm going to seat Ed for Sarah. And on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comment. Brett?
All right. Good evening, Brett Mastriani, Hangman Hill Road. I just want to bring up an issue that I saw during the selectmen's meeting the other night that I think is a major problem that we have right now. And I do think it's something that's going to be needed to be taken up rather quickly and during this cycle. So at the meeting, and you'll see it in your budget that's there were increases to town hall employees that already happened. Now, I don't know how you're going to resolve it, but it needs to be resolved because it wasn't legal. So I'll quote my statute, 7-460, compensation of officials and employees. Now, before I get into this has nothing to do with the actual town employees. We know they're great employees. We know that things need to be done, but we still can't do it in a way that doesn't legally make sense. And like I said, I don't think this was intentionally done by any means. I just think we missed a step. So General Statute 7-460, unless otherwise specifically provided in the general statute, any municipality or subdivision thereof through its legislative body may fix the compensation of its officials and employee subject to the approval of its budget-making authority. Any proposed increase in the compensation of members of the legislative body or of any municipality shall be subject to confirmation by referendum at the next regular election. So that second part is for elected officials, but the first part is for town employees. And if you read more into it, it also has to go through the legislative body first, which would, in this case, be the other two selectmen from the board. I'm a little surprised because that's not the past history of how we move through things. Usually the Board of Selectmen will meet as a whole, decide on these things, then move it forward and let you guys know. And then if you guys have to approve it, then you approve it. But something needs to be done pretty quickly because they've already gotten these raises. And I don't believe it's done legally and it needs to be addressed because it's something that's going to affect them, but we can't allow it to continue. And I know it was all done based on a survey that went out. And some of it's valid, but I do think the survey wasn't shared with the public or the other selectmen before this was done. And I also believe that you hire 4 different consultants, they're going to give you 4 different answers of how much people should get paid. So I'd like to see if during these salary looks, when we were looking at the salary, was benefits looked into, because we know we have a strong benefit package. So you have to look at every part of a compensation program. And I don't know if that was done. It feels like it was rushed. I've never heard it discussed, the results of the survey, and it just automatically happened. So I think according to the selectmen meeting, they were paid out last week, was their first paycheck with the new increases. So I would suggest that you guys either put it on the agenda tonight to discuss or set up a meeting pretty quickly to address it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. And yeah, you may. Awesome. Okay, so
At the end of the last meeting, Mr. Mastriani texted me to let me know that I had a problem. I did something wrong. I would say that not having Mr. Mastriani on the board of selectmen is different because he used to keep me in check with all my statutes and ordinances that I typically didn't always know, but he did. I know in the past there's been errors by previous first selectmen where there's been an oversight. I know there was, to give you one example of a previous first selectman, there was a lease agreement signed by both the fire company and the town with both the fire building and the old firehouse. It was never corrected. Unlike that, I said to Mr. Mastriani that I will deal with this immediately. At our next meeting, we will have a discussion. I'll explain to them, I'll fall on my sword. The other two selectmen explained to them that we went through the process. Shame on me, I did not go back to them to get the final vote, and I should have. However, the salary survey actually started when Mr. Mastriani was still in office. We started to talk about it in October. It was only, and then it took about 3 months to go through the process. When he says you can get 4 different people to come with 4 different answers, it's not 4 different people out there who normally do this. The person we went to was the same one who did Preston and Brooklyn about 4 or 5 years ago, and they were highly touted as someone who does this. I did, yeah. So yeah, the problem I had was going through the process, getting into the weeds and missing that step of going back. So what I would do is at the Tuesday meeting, which is a week from tomorrow, I'll go to the Board of Selectmen. They were familiar with the salary, that we were doing it. They knew I was talking to the employees with Suzanne, going through with the employees. Again, I missed that step, so we'll go back and try to correct it on next. When are you going to meet with your? A week from tomorrow. Okay, that's my next meeting. Okay. So we'll go a week from tomorrow. See if they will agree to vote or not. Maybe they'll say, no, you should have told us before, Bob, we're going to voting no. I don't know how they're going to handle it, but I will say, hey, my fault. I missed a step. I didn't have Brett there to remind me about the step, which I normally had for the last 4 years. And so we're going to correct it. I would never do something like this intentionally. It was an error on my part, and I would just say that we will get it corrected, and we get it corrected by the next time we meet. It's going to be corrected next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. And again, I think the biggest thing is when you miss a step or you know you've done something that isn't the way it should have been done, the best thing you do is admit it and move forward. And that's what I'm going to do. But as far as the salary survey, that's another whole story. And the outcome of that, we can discuss that at a different time. But the process wasn't done correctly, and that's my fault, nobody else's fault. So that's it. Okay, thank you.
Well, we're scheduled right now to meet next Monday. That's going to be, I think I canceled that already. If I didn't, it's going to be canceled because we have the referendum. Yeah, I thought so. And so our next meeting is going to be, just let me verify. It's on the 18th, right? Yeah. No, Board of Ed was supposed to be this week. That's why we didn't take that. You tomorrow night?
No, the presentation.
Yes,
Yeah, is the
right. We meet that next Wednesday. So you'll be on the 17th and we'll be on the 18th, and we can, if you need us to vote on something, then we'll yeah. Any other public comment? Brian?
It's still on, is it? Yeah.
It is.
Okay. I didn't get a chance to speak at the end of the last meeting, obviously, because of the commercial that came on. That kind of ended the meeting, so I figured I'd take this opportunity to respond to what was said as far as the budget. I'm not really sold on the quarterly. Quarterly is up to $9,250. When I read it, a lot of it's the school. And I believe that was started with the school. I don't know if they put any money in toward it or not, but it's getting up there. And I think with the internet that we have, with, Selectman John is putting things on there as far as meetings and things like that. I don't know if it's really a good newspaper to keep. And it might save the town a little money. for our social services, go on, I'm just gonna reiterate about, just check and see what they're doing with their money as far as being stewards of the money that the town gives them. We give out a lot of money, especially to the Pork Talk Neighborhood Center, which it's a good organization, but I'm wondering if, is the town receiving that much back as far as, is it money well spent? That's all. I know they talked about, well, the policeman was here, and he talked about that security camera. I'm not big on that either. Simply because when he was speaking, he was talking about where they would be, and they would be on mostly state roads from what I saw. He pointed out down by the R&R, up by the casino. And I would think a lot of them businesses have cameras on their businesses. So, and they're state roads. If they're state roads, the state has a lot of money from what I understand. So let them buy their own cameras if they want to put them up on their own roads. I mean, we all got phones. They can find us anytime they want. And there's no guarantee that the company that supposedly looks at your license plate is going to get rid of them. I think there was a police on the other town on the other side of the state that was taking them to court over that. Okay, that was the flock cameras, and let's see this side. The stipends and benefits on 2727. Got 12,000 on there, and I didn't know if that was something new, where it goes, what on that one. I missed that completely, and my question would be, why is it 12,000 there? That's quite a lot, as far as I'm concerned. And I think last and but not least, I'm going to put out my cry to get the second and third selectmen up there a little more in price. I know they added a little bit to it, but at least bring it up to 5,000 for each one. That's the way I feel. I mean, we're still getting a good deal with our selectmen. And anyways, that's my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Anyone else for public comment? Anybody online with a hand up? Go ahead.
About the library, but I can wait.
Go ahead.
I appreciate Bob's statement. But I just want you guys to be prepared that I believe that you guys will have to vote on it as well. You guys are the budget making authority.
I think we're planning on, if depending on how their vote goes, then they're going to vote it, just bring it to us next Wednesday.
So from last week till next week, or the end of that pay period, we're still paying employees on a rate that wasn't approved. That isn't legal according to state statute. So that's why I understand you might want to wait a week, and that's up to you guys. But I think this is one of those things that when we do something, we need to fix it and fix it quickly, because you're going to just keep letting town funds go out without the proper approval. That's my only comment on it.
That's fine. And if the Board of Selectmen want to have a special meeting tomorrow night, I'll call a special meeting for Wednesday, and I'll set out the agenda tonight. And send me that statute, send me all the cases that go along with it that are at the bottom, if they have the sites to it, and I love statutes.
This is the actual statute.
Whole workers' compensation scheme is statutory based.
I wasn't.
I don't know. I'd be happy to look into that tomorrow and, you know, Bob, I don't know what you want to do.
So I can't call a meeting tomorrow night because I don't have 24 hours notice. So I could call one for Wednesday, a special meeting Wednesday afternoon, which should still be in time for if you want to do a special meeting on Wednesday yourself. I could do a Zoom only meeting take me 10 minutes on Wednesday afternoon. I could let you know what the results of that vote is, and you can decide how you want to handle it from there.
No, we're not meeting Wednesday night.
I'm not sure, and it sounds like
We
Judy.
weren't originally because the Board of Ed was supposed to have a
Sounds like the
meeting.
Board of Finance is, Board of Ed's not meeting Wednesday, correct? Was Judy?
Correct.
She's not here. All right, so,
They put out their agenda for tomorrow night because of the concert on Wednesday.
Right, right. Well, that's why we didn't plan a meeting for that particular date when we did our
correct. So
calendar.
I'll plan on one for Wednesday. Zooms, I only need 24 hours for that.
You guys,
So hold on.
go ahead.
When we're talking about the legislative branch of this town, wouldn't that be sending it to a town meeting? No?
Not for this.
No.
Officials, if it was for the selectmen you were raising it then, you would for an elected official appointed. But for employees, it's a legislative body, which is the selectmen.
That's it. So we're not gonna get caught later on where you should have sent it to a town meeting with the budget.
The only dicey ones in there is the town clerk and town clerk and tax collector, because those are considered town officials, even though they're appointed now. So that's the one that I was questioning. But I think we go through the basic legislative body of the Board of Finance or
You know, for instance, they're citing several different Supreme Court cases here. And then CS has got to be a lower court, Superior Court decision, but it says salary increase for tax collector voted on by common council held invalid because approval of the Board of Finance and taxation was not secured. So, you know, we do have, anything over 20 has to go to the full legislative body. Other than that, we do have the authority to, and we're not talking about anything over $20,000 for the rest of the year, correct? All right. Anybody, we'll hold,
Hold
Go
on.
ahead.
Is it, like he was saying, is it individual or is it the lump sum of raises?
Even a lump sum is 20,000.
right. I think it can be done by the selectmen and the Board of Finance.
Sure. As long as we don't,
So when are we thinking about doing, how are we gonna do this time
I
wise?
mean, I was going to ask everybody if we couldn't get everything done tonight, whether or not we wanted to have a special meeting on Wednesday anyway. Just to make sure we have our thoughts together for the selectmen's budget before we get into next week with the Board of Education budget. I'm leaving that completely. I haven't queried you guys on that yet, but we have an opportunity to take Wednesday as a special meeting. I put the agenda out tomorrow and it's fine. There's over 48 hours of notice. So we can,
it's not 48 hours notice.
no, because I think it's for special meeting, it's 24 hours.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do a hybrid. However I have to do it, it's going to be done. He's still not in? I didn't think so. He's got a request to come in.
Yeah, but Susan's in.
Hi, Mike, it's Sue. Yeah,
Hi,
you have to
Sue.
let you have to let Gary in on the meeting. You just
I
let
know,
me.
but I don't know, it doesn't, it's not asking us to admit him.
Oh, he should be in the kind of in the waiting room as
No.
He's
participant.
not.
He's in purgatory.
That's why I didn't do it. At first, I thought he was already in.
Yeah.
But he has he's got no camera showing, no microphone, and there's nobody in the waiting room.
Okay, I see him under participants, but with
Yeah.
no mic or no camera.
Correct.
I'm not sure what's up with that.
There he is.
Okay, he's good.
Yep.
Yep, he's
Sorry about that, Gary. I didn't realize that you weren't up there as in the waiting room.
Now there's multiple things.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, you got to be kind of sensitive. Those mics are real. You got them real. You sort of. But I got you.
Okay. Gary, do you have anything to add on as far as whether or not we should meet on Wednesday if Bob can call a special meeting tomorrow on Wednesday afternoon?
I didn't catch any of that.
You didn't catch anything I just said?
Yeah, the audio's messed up.
All right, I'm gonna use a different mic.
Go back from the mic just a little bit and see if it helps, or switch.
Gary, can you hear me?
Yep,
All right, how's this one?
better.
Okay. So did you hear Brett's public comment?
I heard nothing. I was.
You were in purgatory? To summarize, Brett came in with a statute 7-460. And it's with regard to the increases in salary that Bob had done the market survey for what municipal employees should be paid, and the increases began last week. And the statute that he's reading seems to indicate that it has to go through the legislative body, which means they vote, the Board of Selectmen have to vote for it and then send it to us. If it's under 20, obviously, then we vote to approve it. And Bob threw himself on the sword and said he didn't go to his board, but he will do that Wednesday in a special meeting. And then if we want to meet on Wednesday, we have an opportunity to, because the Board of Education is not meeting Wednesday, and we could take it up on Wednesday, at a special meeting, if it does in fact pass the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
You good with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'll put out an agenda for Wednesday, and it's going to include that and general government budget discussion in case we need to follow up on that. And I'll keep on the grand list discussion because, based on tonight, I think we're still going to be talking about that issue. But it'll be limited to, it's a special meeting, so we don't have to do a lot of the other stuff. We'll keep it short. Any other public comment? I know, Pat, you can. I know, what's that? But you're specifically talking about the Wheeler Library? All right, well, John Olson also wanted to talk about that, and I'm just gonna have a short public comment on that specific issue when we get to that budget, to that agenda item. Yeah. All right, correspondence, I got a letter from Scara. I don't know if it went, obviously went to Bob probably too. On the Board of Selectmen, they're increasing their the rate ton of municipal solid waste disposal by $8.04 to $83.10. I imagine that's included in Alan's budget and your budget. A letter from Scala regarding their $8.04 increase. Why don't you come up to the mic for me? Can you come up to the mic for me?
Yeah, we had that a while ago. We put incorporated into the budget. And we also have up the fees to the haulers from our town. We make a incremental $3 or $4 a ton to the haulers. So it used to be flat, but now we actually make a little bit of money on that. So yeah, that's incorporated into the budget.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've also received per our memo of understanding we sent to the Board of Selectmen to send out to the 503Cs. We received several replies, including from the fire department, UCFS, and I believe I just got one from the North Stonington Ambulance Association and several others. I'm going to forward those to Lou. Lou's been kind enough to vet those, but it's basically everyone we sent stuff out to that are, that are seeking money are providing at least most of what we're asking for, if not all, which is a great thing. And it's just giving us the confidence that the money that's being designated in the budget is going to, solid non-for-profits. I believe I did. Yeah. Just me 1 second. I know there was an email from John Achokis. We had some questions with regard to the grand list, and according to Jen Lineweaver, the median increase in residential property townwide was 68%. There are 1,120 properties that fell below that number and 1,114 properties that exceed it. But the median, as far as from the last meeting, that was that 392,000, whatever it was. It was on the slide. So on that topic, on the grand list, Winona had last year's numbers that were provided by the assessor at that time, Daryl Del Grosso. And I tried to look at it side by side. I had a meeting canceled on Friday morning, so I was able to meet with Jen Lineweaver for a bit to see if we could possibly tease out what the growth in the grand list is for this year. And unfortunately, other than the fact that there's 14 new homes, and she did say there's an effective tax rate that they generally use. And it's I can't remember what the percentage was. Give me a second. It's basically the houses were around 350 to 500,000. Those 14 houses in general, what they went for, and the effective tax rate that they generally use is $8,000 that you're going to generate from those houses on average. So if you take the 8,000 by times 14, yeah, it was 112,000 in tax revenue. That's, you know, pretty much a given. I mean, that's tax money that's coming in, that's not subject to the mill rate. That is basically, once the mill rate is figured in, we're gonna get about eight grand from them a piece, which makes around sense given, you know, what I've paid over the years and,
And it's probably a safe thing to do because a couple of the houses were pretty substantial, so
correct,
rather be safe than overstate.
right.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
sorry. Without knowing what our revenue is, simple. We don't know what the appetite for budget impacting the tax base. I just can't, sorry, it's going to sound obtuse, but I can't accept this as an answer. We should be able to know what came on the grand list. We're not asking what came off. We know what came off. Lou, help me out here.
Well,
Gary, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I mean, I don't mind using a rough estimate at this moment just to kind of get comfortable here to get going. But it seems to me that if this is all based on new COs that are been issued by the town for the houses that were built with the building permits, those should be able to be identified fairly readily.
But
And
it's
then
houses,
just, I'm sorry?
vehicles, it's commercial property associated.
No,
I mean,
they were
this-
just mentioning houses, Gary. For this discussion, it was just houses.
Yeah, but that's increase in the revenue grand list. So if we have a business, they've got heavy personal property associated with that business, that hits the grand list also. Tick in the grand tells us what our capacity is to absorb budget increases across the board without impacting the ratepayers.
I think we agree with you on that, just coming up to that number. I think the house number, the amount that came through from the houses should be fairly straightforward to figure out. How we do it on the businesses, I don't know how that process works. So on that, I can't comment.
Well, businesses, you get the personal property survey every year that you're supposed to fill out.
But I don't know how you would know the new from the old. I don't know how that,
Well, it's yearly.
Works.
Every year you have to fill one out of those and it tells you this year, this is what your rate was. And then the next year, then
right.
it's
but
clear.
We need to know which ones are the new businesses that are filing those. And I don't know how they account for that.
If you
They
come-
should,
if
but I don't know how
you're-
they do.
If you come to town, you should be filing with Antoinette right off the bat. So she should be able to get you that number, how many businesses.
No, she should tell you what the new licenses are.
Correct. By that, you'll know how many new businesses are in town. Right?
And this is exactly the conversation I had with Jen, and basically her response was it's other than the 14 houses, it's difficult to say that, you know, the increase in businesses, teasing out what was different between this year and last year. And one of the problems I ran into, Gary, and everyone else, is the list, the report that I got from Winona, that we got from Daryl as of January 29th, 2025. Some of the numbers for like real estate on the gross or the net assessment doesn't necessarily match what Jen Lineweaver had on that memorandum that she sent to us where the difference is. And my feeling is that as Daryl went through his netting process, there was a different final list, and I don't know where that is.
So he created his own metric of what we're looking for, but we can't get it.
That's basically not yet.
All of it.
You know, I went to the audit to see if, you know, that was included as an attachment, and I couldn't find it in any of the audits. I mean, it's not wildly off. But it's just, how do and I want to give you proper numbers, because if you look at, and I'll send this out to you guys tomorrow. But you have, you know, on the second page, you know, you have residential, you have commercial, you have industrial, you have, the old one had public utility. Vacant land is on both of them, use assessment, 10 mil forest, and apartments.
Wait a minute.
And, you know, the numbers, there's big, and other than public utilities out, because I think that's when last year, remember he said, CLMP had done all kinds of upgrades.
Mhm.
And he taxed them on those new upgrades. It was kind of like a one-time thing because
Yeah,
they had done all of their power plants.
Yeah.
They're,
Quick question
Go ahead.
on this, on the reevaluation. That was on real estate, correct? Or was it on personal property as well? I think it was just on real estate.
now it's on personal property too.
Some personal property. Well,
It's on motor vehicle, it's on,
Well, the motor,
Well, yeah,
vehicle, the motor vehicle happens every year, but if the reassessment was just on real estate, then the difference between this year and last year on personal property would be the organic growth
Mhm.
from one year to the
the
other.
problem is the solar farms have screwed that completely
Yeah,
up.
that's true too, but
We're not going to solve this here, but foundationally, we cannot set a budget unless we know what our income is. I don't understand how we could even be at this point where, well, it's a hard number to find. You know, that to me just smacks like set your budgets wherever you. And if we
No.
can't raise the levy that if we can't taxes, it's not the way budgeting. Know what you budget.
We're kind of fading in and out.
Yeah, I'm going to let this play. It's probably best I'm fading in and out because I'm getting agitated, but this number should be readily available.
Well, but in the end, I mean, I clearly would like to have that number as well because it's the organic growth that we can, or the new growth that we can help offset any budget increase, but we will know our revenue number regardless of having that or not, because we will have the total assessments on all of the properties in town. So we will have the total that we will base what our mill rate should be.
And I'm with you, Lou. Where I'm going with this in my mind is that the undesignated fund is for unforeseen circumstances. So successful and get the personal property from the solar fields. To me, that should be a hit to the undesignated fund to plug that gap. However, there's still a good guy out there as far as increase in revenue that nobody can tell us what that is, and that's problematic for me. You follow?
I follow. I think we're going to have to move without it, without firm numbers, at least for now.
That's good. I'm sorry. I'll be the rock you're going to try to roll over that hill.
So can I ask a quick question? What would be the difference in the actual real number that we're going to eventually get to and what we think hypothetically we're going to be at? Is there a large difference? Sorry. So my question is, Based off of the fact that we don't exactly know what the grand list is going to generate in terms of tax revenue, and we don't have that number, so it's hard to base the budget off of that. That's what Gary's saying. Do we have an idea of what the number is going to be? Like, are we like, or is there a good chance that we're 8 or 10% away from that number?
We have the grand list. We have the numbers. If you look at the memorandum from the assessor that she gave to us the last time she was here, real estate's up 62%. That we can't use 62% because we're not trying to base our revenue on a 28.88 mill rate, which would just be way overtaxed. So I think in that line, you got to say we got $112,000 in taxable revenue there. Additional. Personal property should be give me a second. It should have increased by 1,622,560 had the solar farms not been exempted. Right now, it's a 17% loss. It's a loss of 14,675,770 because of the solar farms. But I'm working on that issue as well, because there's 3 main solar farms that are in town. There's 450 Providence New London Turnpike, which is Route 184. That's assessed at around 8,359,000. And then Boombridge Road is 8,408,500. And then there's Ella Wheeler. Well, Ella Wheeler is a contractual arrangement. And that was negotiated by Sean Murphy when he was selectman. And this year, we're slated to get 104,834. So Ella Wheeler is not even listed in our grand list. Because it's basically, you know how the new legislation says that anything that's put in place as of July 1st, 2025 when the law changes, it's going to be exempted from the grand list next October. They're not even going to be on the grand list because they're going to be set by state for that tax abatement payment. This contract is basically the same thing. They're not paying based upon the assessment. They're based upon a contractual arrangement that changes year to year. You know, for instance, in 2022, they paid $101,259. 23, they paid 103. Then it was 104. And then the grand list for 225, actually, it's going to go up to 106,669. Now, I've asked Bob to find out how are we accounting, if it's not on the grand list, how are we accounting for that 106,000 or roughly a little over $100,000 in revenue that's coming in outside the grand list? Because as you know, in our budgets, you have a number of different categories. You have the grand list, number 1, general property. You have past motor vehicle interest and lien fees is kind of a separate item. Short-term investments, then the intergovernmental revenue, license and fees and fines, and then other revenue. And did you get a chance to talk to Zane? Is she back from vacation? Okay. Well, that's that's,
Put it in, you could just put it under other revenue,
we
create a line,
could, we could,
and then it's there.
and it's there, and that, so that's another 106 this year. So
It's good that we do that and we get that income. It's just another one of those things where we have revenue coming in that doesn't offset some of the increases in the budget. The way it's presented, in this standard format, you don't see that, but it's still accountable and it will impact the mill rate for sure.
correct.
In a good way.
In a good way.
It'll lower the mill rate.
So we got 112, we got, and this is all tentative, guys. The 106 from Ella Wheeler. The other one, one's in litigation and it's in the grand list, but we haven't gotten paid any of those taxes. There's like well over $1 million in back taxes owed from that solar farm. 3 years, I think. Which is accounted for in our uncollectible taxes. That's why we don't collect at 100% tax rate. We collect at a 98.5% tax rate. And then, so really, what's affecting the actual dollars that come in is that other $8 million property that is exempt under the present statute, but hopefully is going to change back. And once that legislation trends back, both those properties are going back onto the grand list. No. They predate, they're already in. Only new systems are going to be exempt as of October 2026.
I thought the way she answered that was that once they're out, and they're not going back in.
No, if the statute never changed and it was October 1st, 2025, we would be out.
Right. But I think when the new statute goes in, the state's trying to grab all of that money off of that.
They're not.
Yeah,
No, they're changing the statute to make sure the grand list only affects those properties that are after July 1st, 2025.
Okay.
They're
You
trying.
can't-
I didn't hear it that way.
They're trying to change the statute. My concern
they're
is
trying to change it back,
there's only 6 towns impacted, and that concerns me. It's not like it's not like we're a big swing here. So, I appreciate we're trying to get this done. I'm hopeful, really, really hopeful we get this done. I'm
Yeah.
just not willing to bank on it at this point.
I'm not, Gary, I'm not either, because until I have a word from Jen Lineweaver that she is revising her grand list, which she sends to the state, and the statute includes a whole paragraph that allows her to do that. That allows her, it's actually, it's a paragraph, it's line 125 on the thing. She is allowed to revise her grand list that she's already submitted to the state. But until she does that, Gary, I'm with you. We're not, and that's why it's kind of an exercise in futility. If you lost $16 million off your grand list and you have your personal property went down, 14,675,770. What do you do with that? Motor vehicles went up 14.57%. And the total increase is 47.33%. It's just going to take a little more time, and I'm happy to get help on looking at these numbers from the difference between 2025 and 2026. So the real estate is got to be, it's 814. I don't know how this 814 gets back to 803, that it gets netted out somehow. So you want to use these numbers here, but they're not matching the other numbers. I don't necessarily know how. And one problem is, Jen does a great job. She's only here one day a week. So it's like, I'm in there and I'm keeping her from doing her job and, but I'm going to keep working on it. That's all I can tell you guys.
Mike.
Yeah.
Line A1, general property current. The change from 26 to 27, 8 million. Is that based on the 28.8%, our mill rate?
Yes.
So if our mill rate was half that, what would we have? Or if it was only 40%?
Hold on a second.
Current mill rate is what, 28.8?
28.8.
28.8. So in other words, your average increase was 68%. If we take that 68% off of that, that to me, that would be our actual increase on the properties. If we're trying to base it on flat, not on the
You're looking at the approved budget for 2025, 26?
Yeah, right here, A100 general property current.
Right.
26,623,909, which shows an increase of 8 million.
Yeah, but that's
based on 28.8, right?
It is.
So technically, since everybody's went up 63% on our average of 68% on their houses, if you drop it down, even half of that, 40 or 50%, what's half of 28?
Well, no, it wouldn't be that. If you did that and you would just,
You do it by 14,
you would divide it by
1.14.
You would divide it by 1 plus whatever the increase is. And so that would get you to a mill rate of just using that, which is not
Not all the other revenue.
not all accurate at all.
Nope.
You're looking at 18 for a mill rate, a ballpark mill rate of
Of
about
18. So
18.
now take 18 and go by the 20.
Right, that's how you'd have, yeah.
Right,
And then
so-
you have all the rest of the income that we also need to take into consideration.
Am I doing that backwards, or does that give you a better idea of where we're at?
No,
Because we have the swell that we're trying to adjust for and figure out what we're doing right now.
Yeah, so my math was we should come out of the gate at a mill rate of 17 and we're at 19.4. 19.4 is generated by the loss of the solar field, plus all the good guys from the income, which we don't know what it is. But that's the net number, 19.4, which is what Jen gave us at her readout. Right?
And that's before the increases, right, Gary?
Yep. That's before Bob asks or the school asks or anybody asks. We're out of the gate at 19.4.
but I don't know if that takes into consideration all the other revenue sources.
It doesn't.
So you can't come to that conclusion yet.
So how did we come up with a mill rate of 19.4 out of the gate if the revenue sources weren't in yet?
I didn't say 19.4.
No,
So-
but our assessor did. I wrote it down at the night of the meeting and we can review the video if we'd like, but that's out of the gate was 19.4.
Yeah, she doesn't account for the revenue. She doesn't account, it's not her job. Yeah, defend her. It's our job, and the selectmen's are, but that was based on incomplete data. So honestly, what I'm looking at here is we go into this understanding that there's going to be a significant change to the mill rate. And given the worksheet that we've used in the past, I think what we're going to end up having to do is, once we get the budgets from the first selectman, the Board of Ed, we apply that to what we pretty much know is going to be our revenue. And then we'll have a starting point to understand what the new mill rate starting point will be. Personally, I think it is going to be a little bit higher. So I think that's something we're going to have to take into consideration. But it's, at this point, I think we just move through the process, but we can apply the mill rate calculation that we do at the end of the process early to see what the implication is going to be.
Let me ask it, so just, let's take the personal property out of the equation for a little bit from that memorandum. So we got 112 from real estate from those 14 houses. We got 106 from Miller Wheeler. For motor vehicle taxes increases, the difference is it's up 7,859,410. If we apply a mill rate to that to come up, what's the revenue? Would you use 28.88 or should we use something around 19.4? You know what I'm saying? To come up with an estimate of.
I would use the 28.8, just so we have a baseline that we all understand.
All right, so that number is that number is $227,000.
I don't think you want to do that.
All right, so this is what I would recommend. We pump the brakes on it. We know this is a thing. We're continuing to work on it. I would have Sue, Bob, and everybody kind of sharpen the pencil on this one. Because we're gonna spend 2.5 hours on this. We can go and do something else while they can get those numbers for us. We're just gonna spin our wheels for a couple of hours and not get any further because we're all gonna be coming up with different baselines. I'm telling you, I'm seeing the writing on the wall.
I don't disagree, Dan, but we had, we have the other revenue numbers in this budget.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's take the top 4 line items, actually, just the top line item out of the equation for just a minute.
No, you can leave.
So, and if you want, I mean, that's 227K.
What?
If the motor vehicle, if you apply that difference by the 28.88 mill rate, it's 226,979.
Okay.
So basically 227K. You leave that aside. We have, if you look at line A02, we have $30,040 there. We lost 25 grand in short-term investments. For intergovernmental revenue, we're up 201,342. For license and fees, we're up 14,200. For other revenue, it's 6,876.44. You can add up all those numbers, and that's what we have on top of what we had last year.
Right.
Correct?
Yeah. But I guess what I'm suggesting is instead of doing that, Bob came up with the 26,623,000 in revenue based on taking 28.8 against a number. And I guess all I'm suggesting is, knowing that it was a 60% increase in the property on the assessed side, just use the 18 as a starting point, because that reflects the increase in the assessed values. It'll take into consideration the new assets, the new assessed property. And at that point, we're going to see how far we are either over or under, given that all the other income and the budgets that are proposed. I think that's the starting point. Just as we would last year, we started with the prior year's mill rate, and then we had to adjust it based on everything we did. This year, we just plug in 18 or even 19 and see what that does. 'Cause
Okay.
then it's done, and then we run with that until we get down to the final numbers.
Could you take that A1? So you're saying basically
What,
you multiply it by 1.62%?
not that, you multiply that against the mill rate to get you the new mill rate. So our old mill rate, and I was just based on a 62% increase in property values. So the new mill rate should be 17.7777, call it 18. And then that should get you.
I'm just, how do you get that number? I just not.
Oh, it's because if it's a 62% increase, you have the 28.8 mill rate.
Yep.
You divide that by 1.62. What, did that wrong? Sorry. Six two. 17.777%. So the 28.8 divided by 1 plus the increase, 1.62, and the new mill rate, if you want to round it, is 18. Then we've accounted for the increase in the assessment. And now it's just a question of how that impacts the total budget. Right, but I think we're kind of stuck, at least knowing, I think we need to have a little.
So
question.
normally how we usually do is we base it off the known mill rate at the time that we do the budget. And we say this one's 28.88 and everything. We do everything. We settle everything out based off of that. And then we readjust it because we're not a money-making business. All we're going to do is just reset it to get it to with all
Absolutely.
the increases at the end. That's all we do. So it could be once we figure out all the budgets and everything, it could be 17.77777, or it could be 21.
Agree, but we're not starting off with a number that we know is the growth number that we want to stay in between, stay below to say at a net zero.
I'm just saying that's not how we've done it in the past.
We never had to though.
We've reset the mill rate before. We did it during COVID.
Yeah, that was done in fresh reval. I don't think we even looked at it. We just,
We did.
But
We set the mill rate. We better have looked at it.
I'm just saying, we didn't do this. I don't know if we did this exercise first.
No, we went out and we let everything shake out, and then at the end, we readjusted because we said, all right, the school this year was this, and the selectmen's budget was this, and our debt was this, and our capital was this, and everything was like this. All right, what do we got to get down to get down to where it pays everything? And it was like, all right, this is the number that we have to go hit to basically reset the mill rate.
But Dan, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, but we're not doing that now. We'll be doing it later.
But at least it gives us a starting point where people are looking at this saying their taxes are going to go up
All I'm
by
saying is
60%. This doesn't make any difference.
Here's another question. Is the Assessment Board of Appeals complete? I would take that as a no. His shaking of his head is no. So we're already going to have a
That's what,
number that we're going
I
like
think,
this.
I know, but I think she has to set her net mill rate is set as of January 30th, 2026.
I just worry that if we start putting numbers out there that aren't firm or they could move a little bit, people are going to either get excited or mad one way or another. It's best that we just run through these budgets and then reset the mill rate at the end, like we've always done. It takes the liability of stuff getting out there, and we're supposed to look at the budgets as they are, come up with the best budgets, put it forward, and then have the town approve them or disapprove them. I just worried, we can think about all the other things, with having, the revenue and what came in town new and everything else. It's just, we got to be weary of when we start talking, well, this is the finite 17.77777 is going to be the lowest, and then we're wrong because something out of left field came.
Well, one thing we know is wrong, and that is a revenue number of $26 million. We know that's wrong. And so it seems to me the more prudent thing to do would be at least to try to approximate what those revenue numbers would be.
All right, I'll end it with
That's
this.
it.
And Lou, I don't disagree with you at all. I'm gonna,
He disagrees with me.
I'm not, I don't disagree. Listen, in a perfect world, it's easy. You know what your grand list is, it's, your mill rate's not gonna fluctuate that much. And we know what the growth is without a revow. So this is not an easy situation. I think we'll move on to, let's discuss the expenditure side. For Wednesday's meeting, I will put Lou's suggestion into my spreadsheet. I'll put and I already did, I put the new numbers in that spreadsheet.
Mhm.
And we can see where that number takes us. And use it as a working model, but not necessarily,
Stalking horse.
okay? I'll have that on the screen. And I'll try to get hard copies for you guys. I'll send it out to you by email beforehand. At least what numbers we have right now based upon this draft 3 and 62%. So you want to use 18 mils?
Yeah, because it was.
Yeah.
It's a round number.
Yeah, that's a good number. All right. Does anyone have? We got a budget that's 0.65%. It's 156,000 above last year, and and that's with the capital that we reduced last October by 316,000 by using the undesignated fund to get that capital out of there. 0.65.
Your budget is at 7.86. Is
That's third draft. Everyone have third draft?
I don't know if it's
Down here.
third draft. Third.
Gary, did you get that?
Yes.
And if Bob didn't take another 100 from the Board of Education for town maintenance, that'd be down to 56,000. Correct, Bob? Correct. All right. Does anyone have any specific things on line items that they have questions about, or they want, based upon presentations we had, that this includes the 40 hours for additional for per diem firemen that they can use however they want. You subtracted 175K from that presentation, right? How does everyone feel about the flock cameras? It's 7,300 in this budget.
Flock cameras?
Yeah, with the Trooper McCarthy camera.
I still don't understand why the state of Connecticut doesn't.
The only
perform.
question I had for the flock cameras was state of Connecticut has, for DOT, has cameras at most of the intersections. Are those not allowed to be used for them guys to do what he wants to do with the flocks? Because it seems to me most of those intersections are all covered, like right here, Route 2, on and off ramps at 95 and 75 are all done by DOT cameras. I would think if everybody's talking to each other, you should be able to track whatever you want through those cameras. And I don't understand why they need $3,000 a year to do that for each camera. Was my only question. I don't know if it's a question or it just needs to be stated forward. I get what he wants to have some more protection, but at the same time, I think where he was planning on putting them, I thought we already, if you look out, there's cameras already up where DOT watches their intersections. Is there any way of him asking that question, if they're gonna be able to use them or not?
From what I understand, the cameras are on the lights, like at the bottom of Casada Hill. They used to put in the line underneath the road. When you trip the line, when you roll over the line with your tires, they got rid of those because all those were malfunctioning. That's why we had lights that were stuck. So the new cameras have gone on there to trip the light. So now when I come down the bottom of Casada, the camera sees my vehicle, and that's what trips the light. So
I thought that was the motion, off to the right of that, there's a big motion head thing, infrared motion. It's
I
supposed
don't
to
know
check
what
on
that
it.
is called.
Maybe we ought to ask.
We could, but I don't know why the trooper would come here and ask for this if you already had that option, but I can
I
ask
don't
him.
know. I'm just wondering why the state, and if he can't use it, why won't the state of Connecticut let him use it? Okay. Sorry, just my question.
Good question. CK.
Flock.
I just did a quick look. There are apparently a number of communities.
There's one community in Connecticut I know that did that, that put them in a moratorium on them. There's many other communities that have them. There was one that put a moratorium on them.
Yeah, this is just.
I don't think, put it this way, we can leave it in, take out. That's not gonna move the needle much,
No, it's
But-
not gonna move it at all.
but whatever you guys decide is, that's just, you know.
I just think it's worth, were you talking about the cameras too, or something else? You know, given this revow and whatever, I mean, I know it doesn't move the needle much, but it's $7,300 on a, you know, he gave a great presentation. I have a lot better understanding of, you know, of the security concerns that I would certainly have on that regarding sharing data with the feds and how long they store things. I'm definitely more apt to consider it than I was last year. I don't see it being justified in this particular reval year.
Because we changed our philosophy and we have to, the Board of Finance says you need to get down to a number, and I have to move the needle in a large way. We know that historically, 1,000 here, 500 there doesn't do it. So in the past, we used to kick the can down the road and we used to take capital and take a truck out. That would move the needle much quicker. We don't do that anymore, which is a wise thing. I think it's the best thing we did in quite a while. So what's the next big thing that we can do? I talked to Alan, the next thing I would do is probably look at road work, because that's the next big thing. It's a big number.
That's where I was going next.
I would just say that we have, if you look at the revenue side, last year we had 239,219 from state aid road, that's A 3.00.
Yep.
We had an increase of pretty much $80,000. I would say to Alan, why don't we live off what we got last year? The only thing he said with that was, if you don't use that extra 319, you may not get it next year. So if you look at the line, if you look on not the expense line rather, go to 27, I think it's 01 and 02. 2701, that's state aid improved road, that's that 318 we talked about.
Yeah.
But the next line down, town road maintenance, I already took 110,000 out of that. That's taxpayer money to work on roads. And we also have in line 27, LoSiP money, which now the LoSiP money is 75,000. You notice we got that last year and the year before. That's the 5-year LoSiP plan. So that actually, if that doesn't get used, it rolls over. So let's say that we didn't spend that 75,000, we rolled it to next year. We would get another 75,000. The 318, he's afraid that if we don't use that, we'll lose it. But to save the taxpayers, we go back to 2702. I'm thinking it might be 1 year when we, because it's a reval year, because things are tight, the roads are in fairly good shape. Of course, we have a pothole here and there, but we just got done plowing. But overall, the roads are in pretty good shape. Plus, we have a steep grant that we have not enacted yet for 2025. I have not asked for an appropriation for. Part of that is working for culverts and piping in 2 roads. So we have some street grant money and we have 318,000 in state money. That's if we don't use LoSiP and we don't use the town road money. So there is, if you tell me I have to drop this budget by quite a bit, that's where I have to go at this point. That makes sense.
Yeah, you had mentioned last time that this budget going up by proposed 7.86, because that's the expense side. But then you would also identify, as you were just talking about, some income, right? So if you net out the increase in income, right? When I looked at how much are you really going up in actual cost to the taxpayer?
Right, so we looked at the 100,000 from the school, providing that the Board of Education does a good job of being transparent and show you where the 100,000 came out. As we said, like the seesaw, I go up, they go down. You have to understand where that came from. They didn't just fill it with another need. That's their job. So that $100,000 is net to the taxpayer 0, because it comes out of one pocket, goes in the other. On the town aid road, it's 318,000, both revenue and expenditure. So it's again, net 0 to the taxpayer. The tipping fees is the one that's about a $25,000 difference. So it's a $25,000 difference between the revenue we received and what the expenditure is on it. So using that's $300,000 that's in our expense side, but it's only a net 25,000 to the taxpayer in round figures. And that's the argument that I was trying to make that story the last time I was
Right,
there.
so that's all dollar amount. So if taking all that in consideration, I think your budget increase would look more like 4%.
If you're down to probably
Three
low
and a half.
4s, high 3s, low 4s,
Yeah.
something like that.
So that's what, I guess,
It actually would be under the amount of money we save from the capital.
right, so I think I mentioned this last time, we need to, given the circumstance, we need to put that information below this.
Well, I understand that, but my only fear of that is not every taxpayer looks at one of these. They see a sign that says vote today, they drive here and they vote. I'm not in the voting booth with them. I can't explain this to them. All they see is an increase of, say, 7.86, which could really be a 4.2 if I could explain everything else to them. But
Okay, but here's the thing, you're not gonna be able to talk to them about it either. So what I'm suggesting is that with that information on the front sheet, the impact on all of this should be that it shouldn't be that a dramatic of an impact on the mill rate. 4% instead of almost 8%.
Well, it shouldn't be, but the percentage, so most taxpayers look at how much is the budget going up? And if this budget goes up 7.86%, even though it's not that number, that's what it is on paper, we know it's not. The taxpayer says, well, of course, that's the highest budget we've had in the last 5 years. And it's because they got all this extra money. We know how politicians are, right? They got all this extra money and now they're going to spend more money. And that's what that 7.86 looks like.
But I'm trying to help you out here.
I know you are.
You're sitting there saying, I want to show the 8%. I'm saying we can present it in a way that is accurate. We're not kidding anybody. We're actually.
It is, and I agree, by just getting that word out, I think is the tough part, because if most people, 80% of the people living in this town don't pay attention to this, they just come in, they see the increase, and they go, why would we have a 7.86 increase?
Okay.
I agree with you. I wish I could do it.
Can't we accept this as submitted and come back for review? Have a full picture of the other big budget coming?
You've got another budget hearing on the 18th. I think the Board of Ed comes to you on March 18th, Gary.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm going to date myself, but there's an old Aesop's fable, I think it was, about Billy Goat's Gruff. I don't want to let you pass, Bob, assuming the next one is going to be far worse than yours and then not be able to come back to you. I would just accept it as submitted for now. Let's get the Board of Ed and then the Board of Finance get together and decide where the budgets need to be.
No, I think that's a good move, except the same, from my point of view and the Board of Selectmen's point of view, I need to go to John and Nicole and say, if we have to bring this down, where do we have to go? So we're not doing it at the 11th hour. And that's why we have to come up with another plan to say, the Board of Finance is not going to accept the 7.86. Where do we go from here? I'm just saying it now, looks like we're going towards roads if we go anywhere.
Gary, you have a good point. But I think the Board of Selectmen should start thinking about, and this is my opinion, losing the 80K, that 80,000, having the town crew live with the 239, 219 that they had last year. So that's 79,839. So roughly 80K and another 7,300 bucks out for looking to lose somewhere around 87.3.
The only thing about that, and when I talked to Alan about this, so that's free money, right? The money from the state's free. The line underneath that with this $50,000 in taxpayer road money, I'd rather take it away from the taxpayers so they don't have to pay for it. Keep the free money and then don't use LoSup this year. Let it roll and take the $50,000 out of the taxpayer money.
Which one's that?
That's 7.02. It was 160. I took 110 out already. Take the remaining 50 and let that 80,000 stay in there because that's free money from the state.
State money instead of our money.
Exactly. I mean, and let the LoSup roll for a year. That's what that would be to me the most fiscally responsible way to do it without hurting the taxpayer.
Okay.
He's afraid that if we don't take the state money and use it, they're going to drop us next year. I mean, that's a nice increase we got this year.
So you're talking about losing 50 grand?
On this B2702. Now I got to go through this with the Board of Selectmen. I understand this decision now. So 2702, I would propose to the Board of Selectmen to drop that, and 27.00, move that LoSup and take that out and let it roll because that's a 5-year LoSup plan, and you have 5 years to spend as long as we keep stay within our plan. So we'll get the 75,000 again next year. That gives us 150. But then we have to play catch up. If there's any fear at all, just how bad do our roads get in 1 year? And I think they're probably not, they're in good shape overall. I think they're not going to deteriorate completely.
I like where you're going with this.
Except for your road.
I don't care.
We did fill those potholes the other day after you asked me.
Yeah, that's on the actual town road.
Yeah, that's a town road, yeah. There's a lot of potholes right now.
I filled all the potholes on my private road.
Bob,
Yes.
for everybody else's feelings of with the flock, back to the flock cameras, instead of 2, can we start off with 1 and see how that tracks and have him come back and tell us how it's?
That's a possibility.
Is that a possibility? It doesn't help, it doesn't save us anything.
Just because I want to answer Mike's question, I'm not a fan
Of,
of flock cameras. I know
Okay.
I know he's passionate about it. I heard the description. There's a lot of things we're all passionate about that we just can't get. I'm sorry, I just can't wrap my mind around why this is a good thing.
I think it's also important to add that Connecticut legislators have actually looked into really not using these to their full capability because of the data sharing conflicts and things like that. So it's still kind of a trial and error process. So if we have to hold off and wait a couple of years and see how other towns make out with it, we might be making the right decision there.
so the other two we can do is during the course of next year, once we're in the budget season, if something happens where we have a change of mind, Trooper wants to come back, we can look for an appropriation if we had to add the flock cameras.
I don't think it's all, well, besides the privacy issue and everything, I don't think it's the initial purchase of the camera itself. It's the, hey, we're gonna whack you and then we're gonna whack you again and again.
3,000 every year.
Every single year. And it's like, all right, for the couple of chances that it's gonna benefit, other towns and everything. If it's being championed by the state troopers that much, they should be providing it. If they want to create a net and they want to say, hey, we want to go put hey, North Stonington has got a bigger problem. we want to put 4 or 5 of these things. Take it out of their budget. Lamont just talked about how great he's got money all over the place. Well, go give them some money so they can start putting these cameras everywhere if they want to do it
On state roads.
on state roads.
Got it. Yeah, we typically wouldn't use them on our town roads because
No, I know.
No, but Route 2 is the main one that goes to
Correct.
184, and they're talking about putting it right off of
no,
95.
I understand. I
They're on
understand the
95
message.
enough.
Yep.
They know what's going on.
So just so I'm clear, when you were talking about, you're talking about 125, losing 125 out of your budget on that, the 75 and the 50?
Yes.
Okay.
And if I had to, the school, it's another 100. But I'm not doing that yet.
We'll see what their budget says and then we'll.
I'd say we just see
we'll
how,
address that.
how they present their budget, how that 100 came out.
I think you had a pretty clear feeling from this board that we like the town to take care of their own stuff.
So on
If
the,
possible.
on the actual maintenance, we're staving that. We're keeping the maintenance part of it, the 100,000 I took last year. It's only the service contracts. But I do agree, they go hand in hand.
They go hand in
And
hand.
we're trying to get service contracts from the school and the town all one. So they're not using somebody for elevators and we're using somebody else for elevators.
Right.
So.
Right. Would you guys all agree with that statement as a general?
And actually, the taxpayer doesn't disagree either because it's 100 no matter whose pocket it
I
comes out of.
I understand, but you being able to hold, or Alan being able to hold the cards and oversee that,
Maybe
it's not a
combine
bad
a few
thing
items.
for our town.
No, I have a lot of faith in our guys to be able to do that,
So,
obviously.
so the volunteer per diem fire staffing, all right? How firm are we on with that number?
Pretty firm. I was pretty much a long meeting I had with the chief. And we were able to sit the board of selectmen and how it all went about, how we did it. So my thought was, we already do 50 hours. We do it Monday through Friday, 10-hour days. There's 168 hours in the course of a week. If that leaves, that means there's 118 hours that aren't covered yet because we do 50 already. Of the 118 hours, you divided that by 3 years, trying to work it the same way we talked about the capital plan over time, not all in one shot. We divided that by 3 years of 40 hours per year. And that's how it says, and I said, if we did that and we gave you 40 hours, you use them where you want to use them, it gives you 78 hours that have to be covered by volunteers. And you pick where you want those hours to be covered. Next year, you come back and you do the other 40 hours, now you got 38 hours to cover by volunteers. Eventually, you can get to that stage. And basically, it's really about, it's not really giving into the fire, but it's really keeping the people in town safe. And how do we do it? And I understand that it's not the old days where the guys used to hang around at the fire station and watch movies and get away from the kids. They're not doing that anymore. They're going at home, they're working, they go home. And these are volunteer firemen, so they have jobs. And they only want to spend time with their families. So when the whistle blows and they're coming from East Clocks Falls Road and Northwest Quarter Road, it's taking them time just to get to the fire station and then back out again. At least if there's a truck on the road, the first truck, it's the time we're just getting there quicker, that's all. So it's
Can
like,
can they fill the roles? Can they fill the per diem roles now that they have? I understand they're having trouble filling them already. And my concern is if we just go forward with this, which may already be a done deal, are we then going to have approved roles which we can't fill and then have to provide more funding to get them filled?
when you say that they're not filming them now, he's gonna have to increase, so he's gonna pull about 8 or 10 firemen that fill those 2 per diem roles now. He's gonna have to increase that pool to probably 12 to 15 firemen to fill these roles. Yes, I agree with you, Gary, that's a concern.
Can you get the chief to give us a readout? The
Yeah.
per diem roles
I think-
we're doing right now.
I think what he's looking for is if there's, how many days a week is there not somebody there or they short one? I think is what he's looking for. I know, understanding you're supposed to be there 24/7, but just to make sure that they're filled right now, that they have enough guys, I think.
The
it's
50 hours that they're saying they're filling.
Yeah,
correct?
the same, yeah,
And are we thinking that they're not filling them?
yeah.
Well, when you say that, so I get on my phone as a call.
Yep.
I'd say that within 2 minutes, I got either a fire truck driving by my office or I hear it.
Just, I would think, why don't you just have him present us with the numbers and the 2 or 3 people that are probably talking to him and then maybe me at the same time are saying that they're not covered. So
Okay.
if we get numbers, we can at least prove to them, hey, they're actually doing it.
Okay,
Does that sound good?
yep.
And the tax abatement that we just went through, that shows up next year, not on this. There's nothing for this year.
That shows up, no, that goes into effect 15 days after we advertise it. We advertised it last week, so that can go into 15 days after that, so it could show up immediately.
No,
There's nothing in your ordinance. It says it goes into effect 15 days after the advertising.
right, but the chief's got to file the paperwork by October. So for the prior year,
I think he has to file by the end of March, doesn't
I'm sorry, not March by the end for the prior year.
he? Right, so he has
So
from now
if
until
that
the end of
goes through all
March.
those dates, that's going to be in here.
Right, so if he files it between now and the end of March, it will go effect for last year, this year, right? This coming year's taxes.
So because that's an abatement, we have to show that on this budget then.
If he files it, you know, what that number is, yes.
Why wouldn't he?
He does it, but we have to have it, we don't know, we would know what the number is, that would be a hard number. Correct?
So
when you said-
so then we'll put this in the budget after he files that?
If he files it, we'd have to adjust the budget, and if it
Before it gets
doesn't,
voted.
by the end of March, we're doing it well within the time that
Okay.
goes to a public
I got
hearing.
it. Good.
There'll be other adjustments too, because as some of things, Dan, the BAO, they're gonna start meeting in April, and that's gonna be also an adjustment to the overall grand
What
list.
we got here.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so. Let's just. For right now, just start talking to Alan about the 125 and talk to the board. Your board of selectmen and Alan about the 125 as a potential.
That he's not happy, because he takes pride in the roads. and
I
takes pride in
understand,
town.
I understand.
And I'm trying to convince him that, you know, well, but as he said, if we take the 160 out, which I'm planning on doing, when it did 110, take the 150. If he wants to put that back in the budget next year, you might have to go 80 one year, then 80 the following year, just to get back where he was last year at 160. But
Yeah.
I said, we'll deal with that when the time comes.
Yeah. And then another $7,300. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. Okay, that's the one that's gonna do it. But I'll talk to the selectmen on, probably not tomorrow, because tomorrow we're on Wednesday, a special meeting about the other thing.
Understood.
But on Tuesday, the 17th, we'll have this on our agenda.
Yeah.
And what, I think both my selectmen, one's here, one's online, so they've heard this conversation. Anything else for me tonight?
I don't have anything further.
Gary, have anything?
Not on this part, I'm sorry, Pat, we'll do public comment on this part of it at the end.
What do you want to know about roads?
Well, road, I went to their police to get my mail because the puddles are on along in front of my road that are so big. And-
So no one can hear you though. So you're saying that your road, which is Bloombridge Road, you go to get your mail and you walk, you need boots because you're walking through puddles.
That's been going on. I had to about 2 weeks ago, I dug a culvert between my driveway, a ditch.
Do you want to come up here and talk about this?
But I had to put the ditch between my driveway and the culvert, and I had big pile of lumber, the workers had to go out and town truck go by, and they were working on the other side of Boone Bridge. Several weeks later, I flagged them out. I'm late because-
Sort of the
All I would say about this is to
Culverts.
put in a, so you have problems with your road being uneven, puddles and so on. Put in a ticket with the board, just call Alan, call Highway Garage, put in that notice, and they will try to fix it for you. That's all I can tell you. So we still have, even if we do those road cuts, we still have over $300,000 worth of funds to work on roads. And there was nothing saying that where you're talking about is gonna get fixed, because there's other places in town we have to work on also. But if you call the town garage and say that's a problem, typically they'll go out and take care of it for you. I've never heard you say it before. Besides tonight?
And didn't you say there was culvert work in the steep grant?
There is, but they're already earmarked for 2 roads, and Blue Ridge is one of them. All right. And
Anything else for, Yep.
Thank you.
Gary, anything?
No, all set. Thanks, Bob.
All right. Wheeler Library, we have a referendum next Monday, the 16th. Voting's 12 to 8, 12 PM to 8 PM. And I really have nothing further. I know, did they have their open house last Saturday? And
Yeah, they did. I was there, just, had to check it out.
Yep.
Had to be several hundred people there.
oh, excellent.
Yeah, it was very well attended.
Oh, good. I just have it on there because it's just going to be a topic, and, I mean, if the referendum goes not goes in the negative, then, obviously that probably won't be an object of discussion. If it's voted yes, then we still have to talk about how how do we do it and get that stuff in the works. So, but I understand we do have 2 public comment on that I am going to allow to happen with regard to this part. John Olson.
I want to follow up on a discussion, Mike, you and I had after the last town meeting. You had made the request or the question as to whether what I had proposed about equal distribution of the expense equally to every taxpayer in town, and you're wondering if that was legal, suggested I talk to Bob Carlson about having the town lawyer do an evaluation of that. So what I'd like to do is read to you the request for legal review that's going to be submitted to follow up on this question.
Okay, so just for everyone's information, after the town meeting, and John has broached this on other large items where it's a one-time expense, rather than using everyone's property assessment to determine how to pay for that expense, he was proposing that expense is distributed amongst all voting adults,
All taxpayers.
all taxpayers.
Whether you assess it to taxpayers, households, whether you include the commercial properties or not, that's a discussion for later on. But the gist of it is, rather than assessing it as a mill rate applied tax, where some people will be, the range could be anywhere from $300 to $1,000 per taxpayer, depending on what their assessment
Right.
is, rather than an assessed equal fee because it's an equal access facility.
All right, what do you
And
got?
that's
Well,
written here.
before we get to that,
Sure.
John, we've talked about this.
Uh-huh.
Does the town even have the authority to do something like
That's
that?
what this is a request for legal review. I believe it is, based on the research I've done. We're asking the town lawyer to confirm what I've done.
That we will issue a
That
bill
that it's an
going
available,
to
that it's
issue a
available
bill.
to.
to everybody, same amount to everybody.
Correct.
I don't think so.
Allow me to read it, and then perhaps it'll clarify it for you.
All right.
So I wrote this in the third person because I don't have the authority to approach the town lawyer. So I wrote it as if either Bob or the Board of Selectmen did it. I wrote it in the third person, referred to myself as the taxpayer that submitted the suggestion. So here it is. Request for legal review. We are considering and soon to vote on a request for funds to augment a state grant to renovate and upgrade our town's historic library building. During the public hearings, there was a discussion regarding financing options if the expenditure is approved by the taxpayers. All of the options presented included various mill rate increases to raise the funds by means of property taxation. A resident suggested an alternative on which we would like legal review. He stated that since the library was a townwide resource provided equally to all, then why shouldn't this expense be split up and paid equally by all? Connecticut state statute allows municipalities to charge user fees. These are revenues based on use rather than property value. In this case, the fee would not be based on actual use or consumption of services. It would be a municipal fee for upgrades to a service that's provided with equal availability for use by all taxpayers. If the expenditure is approved by the taxpayers, excuse me, in the upcoming referendum, we would like to consider this alternative revenue method. Please provide the documentation confirming the authority to implement this municipal service fee. Is that agreeable the way it's presented? It's just a request for review.
I think it's a topic worthy of determining. My biggest pitfall, John, and I was thinking about it afterwards, that I could foresee, and whether or not you can do it, that's going to be up to the town attorney, and you're certainly more than within your right to ask the Board of Selectmen to send that on to the town attorney, and I'll leave it up to them. My concern is the collection. Right now, you have collateral with regard to property taxes. You don't pay your taxes, you would get a tax lien. That's how you enforce payment of such a bill. On your motor vehicle taxes, you have the motor vehicle that you could then file a lien against. You can't register it if you have a lien. So, the enforcement side is where I find the biggest issue with your proposal. But, and obviously that would be part of the debate if this is indeed even viable per our town's attorney.
Yeah, I understand your concern. I looked into not only Connecticut statutes as far as I had the time to do, but also nationwide. And there hasn't been an issue with enforcement because it is assessed to the property as a user fee, which we already have user fees in different parts of the state for different implementation and purposes. And so this would just be another one. It would be sent as part of the tax bill that's sent out to the town. From the town, but that assessment would be a tax portion and a fee portion. That would be the only distinction.
Okay.
So I'll leave you a copy of this. I gave one also to Bob.
All right, Mr. Rosen, thank you.
So this will go to our town attorney?
Yeah.
And we'll be charged for this?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Pat, you wanted to make a comment?
Pat Lewis, Boombridge, 116 Boombridge Road. I still have some concerns with carrying on from what I talked about last week, and it had to do with the cost analysis and primarily about the heating and cooling system that was broken down. It appears that when she gave the director gave the presentation, they were concerned a lot about the carbon footprint, and the choice with the carbon footprint comes out to be twice what we're paying now, along with, again, the $78,000 a year maintenance. The total comes to $329,782. You divide that by 12, it's almost $28,000 a month. That's like a part-time position. Do they expect to pass it on to the taxpayer, or are they going to cut staff or cut days a week to add some of these increased costs? That's a big building. It's 125 years old. It's got huge windows everywhere. It's got a tall ceiling. I just think they need to look beyond these estimates that they've got here, and hopefully they've done more homework than this, and even look perhaps by connecting into the natural gas system that goes up to Route 2. It doesn't have to be, but more than 4 months, the frigid months of the year. And then the other months outside of that, they could use the HVAC for heating and cooling. So I'm concerned about increased costs with these improvements and them being passed on to the taxpayer. This, not all, just this cost, all the costs, and that 1.15% came out to be, I think, like 280 or some $1,000 if it was based on our current, I think it's our budget it's based on. So that's if we were to pay that right now. So overall, I do think we need to be concerned. I have a house that's under 1,000 square feet. I probably have the smallest carbon footprint in this town. I have solar panels since 2007. I've got a plug-in car since 2015. I've got a energy efficient hot water tank. And a couple of years ago, I put in mini splits. So I do have some HVAC. And I heated 4 small rooms because I blocked off 2 this winter. And last month, my electric bill came to over $500. So these needs to be concerned to, we need to be concerned to all the taxpayers. All of them, please.
Did you talk to anybody at the library? Did you go last Saturday and talk
I
about?
didn't see the materials there. I went late because there were so many kids before that, so they may have been there. No, I did talk to a lady there, a greeter, and she didn't have any idea what I was talking about.
Okay.
And I brought it to her attention, and then she got to talking off topic about the elevator needed to be improved, and so, but I go to the library, so
Yeah.
I'm familiar with it. I've been upstairs. Like I said,
I know, but I think maybe the person that's actually
did.
dealing with the HVAC system there, these are good questions for that particular person. and-
I sent questions to one of the trustees and he got back to me, but he got back to me with the best information he could, and he kind of deferred some of it to other things, and I think he got input from some of the other people as a trustee, but a lot of the answers were incomplete. So I've called the library twice, like in the past 2 months, and I've emailed them once, and nobody got back to me. So today I called Matern to see if they could give me any information, matter and whatever, and then and he said, no, they were a third-party consultant. He couldn't tell me anything. So then I called the library and I got a hold of the director herself. And I explained to her all this, and I asked her questions, and she said she couldn't help me too much either. She said, put the questions in writing and she would get back to me.
Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
thank you, Pat. All right, we're moving on to review of minutes. Can you refresh on when you sent those out, Ed?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I sent out an email with the header that was missing from the 2 previous minutes I sent out prior.
Yep.
So the header's on there now.
All right, we have revised minutes from 1/21/26.
And 2/4/26.
All right, so let's look at 1/21/26. That email is dated March 2nd.
I did add some hard numbers in there that were quoted, and then I referenced and double checked to make sure everything added up. That way, anybody who doesn't have time to watch a whole 3-hour meeting can go through and look and see real-time information.
Why not? Those are the fun ones.
So
On the policy discussion, we had the discussion, we've taken out that one section that was problematic for everybody. I thought that we were gonna I was gonna submit that to the Board of Selectmen. Does anyone remember that?
Mhm.
I thought we voted basically, we were gonna approve it as amended,
Correct.
which just took out that one section of unforeseen circumstances.
It was the third bullet that we took out.
But structure was how we wanted it,
Mhm.
and we just needed to take that out, and I would submit it.
Mhm.
So I would just, maybe, I would just add that, the policy as amended was, did we vote on that? I thought we voted on that.
No, we voted
voted on, it, and we agreed to that, and then Dan made a motion that he was gonna, I don't know if he even made.
That wasn't
I think
that wasn't the meeting before that we.
No, no.
Okay. So I'll just go revisit that and I'll listen to it exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I think he made a suggestion that we were
okay.
gonna, look at it again. But the policy we have is with just the change in the structure and removing that one bullet point
It
was
works-
how
it
we
works-
wanted it.
It works as is. It's just, we were gonna have a couple of people look at it throughout the year when we have time and come up with something. Try to
Okay.
shoot for 6 months down the line,
Okay,
because
so let's just table that so you can take a look at that one more time, Ed.
You got it.
I have it ready to go. It's ready to go to Bob whenever we say it's.
Yeah, I'll go right back to that. And
Okay.
especially if there's a vote. I mean, that.
And and when you give me the word and you send out the revised minutes, I'll send that to everybody. Just one more time in PDF that this is what's going to Bob.
Perfect.
Okay.
And I'll get that to you tomorrow. So
All right.
we'll get that out of the way.
All right. So we'll table 121,
next one.
2/4/2026. Yep.
So Ed, the date in the header is February 18th. That probably was an autofill. That's probably should be fixed.
Yep. That should be 2/4.
Jesus.
Sorry, that's the blind squirrel finding a nut.
No, that's for the next meeting, February 18th. And yeah, definitely autofilled.
Appreciate that. I will fix that tonight.
Jen Strunk's last name is that how you spell it? No, there's missing a T. It's ST.
There's a T in there?
Strunk.
Yeah, it's STRUNK, not SK. It's not Scrunk, it's Strunk.
Jen, if you end up watching this meeting, I'm sorry.
If the motion was made, could the means be accepted pending his changes, or do we have to wait?
I mean, there's also the policy discussion wasn't tableted, it was tabled. I don't know if, I don't think we even really talked about the policy other than I had not sent in the one we voted in at the time. That's pretty much all we talked about the policy and that.
I'll listen to those. I must have misunderstood what we were doing there.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
No, not at
why
all.
I
This
made
is,
that,
there's
mistake.
nothing that's not fixable.
7.
And I'll just put minutes on again for Wednesday for our special meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Works for me.
All right. So we're just going to table
More
these.
time will be a charm, I promise.
Yeah, no worries. So tabled.
You wouldn't want to see him if I was.
Actually, I think I've seen the minutes that you've done.
2 words, tops.
Well, the substance is there. It's just not the right dates or things are spelt wrong or.
Any additional public comment? Brian?
I gotta start the clock.
I just heard that, John, in response to John's, I think we're gonna be very careful with doing things like having taxpayers pay an equal amount. I liken it to the registrations on our cars. There's $35 extra taxes on there that the state gives on to us. I can't remember what they are for. One of them, I believe, is the Clean
Air Act.
Clean Air Act. And then there's a green something or other. And anyways, they add up to $35 extra. The other thing is $12 on everybody's home insurance once a year that goes for foundations on the other side of the state. Why am I paying for that? I think our town will go with the tax base they got. I don't think an equal across the board will be fair to the people that are poor, like myself. But I have land, which will probably come more than that anyways. I don't know. If you're on a fixed income, we have to deal with it. The rich, I think they could afford it on their taxes if they own land. So I think it would cause more problems at this point, and it might set a precedent which might not be good for our town. And that's the way I feel about that, because I'm tired of extra taxes. When I get a tax bill, I pay that tax bill and it's done. I don't want to have to worry about, oh, I got this thing over here I got to pay now. It's all on one bill. Support of the library.
Thank you. Sure.
I hear and fully understand what Brian is referring to. The mistake that most people make is that because someone's assessment on their property is higher than someone else's, the assumption is that they're rich. All that means is they spent money to build something or to acquire something that costs more than someone else's. Doesn't mean that money is still in their pocket or in their bank account. What this wouldn't be is in addition to taxes, if this expenditure for the library is voted in, it's going to be a tax unless this alternative is suggested and implemented. The assessment that was presented was the average house would pay $300 to $500, but that average house is a small range in the houses in town.
The median.
The median, whichever it was used. The service provided is equal to everyone. And all I'm suggesting is the fee to receive that service should be equal to everyone. If someone is paying $300 and someone is paying $800 for access to the library, what's that got to do with the size of the house you have or the size of the property you own? Nothing.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to quickly kind of rebut the discussion about this subject. The call, if correct me if I'm wrong, the call is for us to take a loan out for this.
Please speak into the mic.
This is for us to take a loan. The library would be for a loan. The setting of a fee structure would not work in this situation. Correct? The call for the meeting or call for the referendum is for us to take a loan out. That is it.
That's
We-
correct. That's all the vote is for. How you then apply the bill to the taxpayers is still a discussion we have.
No, it would not be. It's a debt of the town. It would be on the budget as a debt that needs to be serviced, and we service debt through the collection of taxes. So, yeah, well, I agree that there's a lot of fault that can be found with property taxes as a way of collecting revenue. because there's all sorts of different ways you can interpret that. Probably the fairest way is an income tax. Go ahead. Let's introduce that for the town. Not going to happen. So that it is what we have. We can't change the call for the vote. So while if the Board of Selectmen wish to find out if that's plausible, it would be for something down the road. It would not be for this, because this is set in the call. I mean, maybe the lawyer will say different. I don't think so.
That's why we're gonna have a lawyer review it instead
No.
This board is the one that let these tax.
Any additional public comment? Seeing none, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 9:05.